limited 5-star light cone, reforged in Hellfire, will be boosted.
At the same time,
Oh,
the drop rates for the
no.
limited 5-star character Yaoguang
Oh,
and the limited 5-star light
no.
cone, when she decided to see, will also be boosted.
In the second half of
Oh,
version 4.3,
no.
limited
Oh,
5-star
no,
characters
DDD.
and limited
Oh.
5-star light cone, this love forever
Oh,
will return.
no. So I guess we could talk about banners now, right? First of all, we got Mortenax Blade. Mortenax Blade is a generalist. The last time we got a generalist was actually last year in 3.3 with Cypher. And one of Cypher's major flaws was that her amp just wasn't that high, but her true damage gimmick was really strong. Blade is kinda different in the sense that his generic buffs are way out of this world, but he doesn't have that much strong of a utility outside of Acheron. What's very unique about Blade is that he can fit a lot of roles, and he can fit a lot of teams. He will most likely just be used as a main DPS or a sub DPS. For like a main DPS, you put him with Ashvale and, you know, those two synergize way too well with each other. In a sub DPS team, you can put him with Acheron. As a support, he can be in Castress teams, he can do pretty decent enough. He can be in Evernight teams too. If you're splitting up your mono Ren team, Blade is a pretty decent alternative to Tribi E1. I would say he's actually better at E0 if you have E0 Tribi only. And even in some circles, you can also use him as somewhat of a sustain. Because Blade has inherently very high HP, and he isn't forced to drain exactly as, you know, you can just use his basic attack and he doesn't drain that much HP. And he has really high damage reduction. He can be kind of like a less safe version of Fire MC. He himself will not die, but his party members probably will. And because of the amount of amp he gives, it's pretty fucking worth it. It's actually pretty good. He just needs to hold out long enough until the enemies die because of his buffs and all of that. So he's a pretty strong character. He's not going to be top 1 in the teams that already have a specific option. Like again, if you're running Mono Rem, Evernight will always just be better because she's SP positive and you want SP for Hyacine. In Ashvale teams, he's probably going to be there forever until the main DPS comes out. In Acheron teams, he's surely going to be there forever. And in Break teams, he can be a fine substitute for Fugue, but obviously you lose that exo toughness. Like, in many teams that don't have a top 1 yet, Blade will probably be the best option, but in specific teams that already have specific options, he's not going to be top 1. He's not the type of unit that is generic, but he's so weak that he can't fit in a team. That the team that he could fit in isn't strong enough. No, he is actually strong enough that most of his teams will clear. So it's pretty good. I would recommend him if you have Acheron at like any capacity because he makes Acheron usable, even at like E0. That's just really how strong he is. And you know, if you're just looking for like a filler slot, or you don't really care about, you know, you just want to play with more teams, then Blade is a pretty good option. I myself am pulling Blade because he has so many teams. In some of my accounts, I'm not pulling him though because I'm looking for the more specific options, you know, like Cyrene and stuff, which Blade doesn't fit that well in. But yeah, that's it for Blade. He's pretty good. He does have weaknesses though. His damage is pretty AoE centric. By that I mean if you're not fighting AoE, his damage really starts to drop off. That's why you want to use E1 Tribi with him as a main DPS because he can't focus fire that well. And that's kind of why he relies on Ashvale for the single target part of fights. So there you go. But he's still, you know, as long as the fights are AoE, he'd be actually dominating those. And in 3 targets, he's just kind of fine. He's okay, I guess. Not top, but it's okay. And then you have Yaoguang. I think that the many people that have said Yaoguang wouldn't be needed anymore have either taken back what they said, like me, or, well, have experienced now how bad teams are without Yaoguang. Yaoguang is so important for relation teams, like it cannot be understated. Whenever I try to like pilot an account that has an elation DPS but doesn't have Yaoguang, it feels like torture. It really does. Like even running Sparksy with an E2 Sparkle, it felt like absolute torture without Yaoguang as like the 3rd slot. She really is that important. In Silverwolf 999 teams, she doesn't use her... Silver Wolf herself doesn't use her relation skill that much without yaoguang, which is another point of contention because her relation skill is actually pretty damn good. And well, you know, she's very similar to like a Cyrene type unit where she's only really good for those 3 DPSs, and outside of that, she's kind of a elation shield check, right? Like if you're using yaoguang without an elation DPS, you're basically just using her to shut down enemies. Like if you use the yaoguang with archer, you're just looking for the elation damage to shut down enemy mechanics, which can be pretty annoying, so it's not like she's useless if you don't have elation DPSs, but it's also not like recommended to pull her just so you can shut down annoying enemy mechanics like that and have no other plans for her later. But again, she's a Cyrene type unit, meaning those 3 DPS units find it very hard to live without her, or become serviceable enough to feel like a strong option for your account. But yeah, apparently Yaoguang Z1 is better than her Sig in calculation, but in practice her Sig can be really, really important because there's just some situations where Yaoguang is like 3 energy off and then you'd be kicking yourself. That happens way more often than you would think. Those ERR stats are actually pretty damn good. I'm not like an elation spammer. I only play elation in like accounts that I pilot, so you know, check your sources for like people that are more aware of elation in their account. So you just, you know, recommend just watch those people instead of me because I have no fucking idea which one's actually better. I just know what's better in my practice, you know. But yeah, that's it for Yaoguang. She's good. Again, she's specific to elation, but she's so good in elation that you really do want to pull for her if you have it. Next is Cyrene, and also a DDD rerun. Cyrene is a capstone unit. She's been a capstone unit since release, and that hasn't really changed. A capstone unit is a unit that you pull very late into your investment to finish off the team you're building. Because of that, Cyrene's value is very dependent on your roster. She's not just like a blanket, you should pull this character or you should skip this character recommendation, right? You have to take your whole account into context if Cyrene is actually good for your account or not. And because Amphorius units have all had reruns now, it's very likely that you do have the teams where Cyrene would be your next best upgrade. Like if you're an Anaxa haver like me and you have Cerebra, the only way to go up is Cyrene. So you pull Cyrene if you have Anaxa or Cerebra. Anaxa and Cerebra, I mean. If you have Hyacine and Evernight, Cyrene's gonna be your biggest upgrade next. If you have Maidi with Tribi, then Cyrene's gonna be your next big upgrade. So you have to be like very conscious of what exactly you want from your account. If you want any Amphorius unit to overperform or to like excel in endgame content, Cyrene's gonna be like really strong for you if you've already gotten every piece except her. Her Eidolons are also not that bad. Actually, they're pretty broken. Like Cyrene Z2 is very broken on Anaxa. I think Anaxa can still zero cycle with it, which is just insane. All of her Eidolons affect Mono Rem in some way. It is pretty... I think it's pretty low on the priority list if you want Cyrene Eidolons compared to the Mono Rem Eidolons before that, like Evernight C1, but still, if you've already done that, then Cyrene's your next big thing. And yeah, that's it for Cyrene, really. She's a broken character if you have the characters that... if you have the teams that would have her as the next big upgrade. This is such a devious banner, by the way, because Cyrene's signature is usually not what you would pull for, especially when you have her Eidolons taken into account. Like, there's no reason why you should pull for her Sig when her Eidolons aren't E2 yet, right? But because there's DDD on it, and even in Cyrene's teams, there's a pretty cool amount of DDD users like Cerebro or Tribi, then you'll probably still want to pull that signature. That is it's pretty devious DDD placement, not gonna lie. Next, phainon. Okay, so the DDD placement on this is actually very nice, I would say, because phainon is a really strong character at E2. At E0, I think he's pretty baseline. He's pretty much of a baseline type of character. By that I mean, if he's not being shilled, or if there isn't like super min-maxed RNG stuff with just getting his stacks up, or like support Eidolons. At E0 in night stages, he's just he kind of needs some form of shilling, otherwise he's not gonna 3-star it. But of course, outside of that, in like starward mode, E0 just still clears everything pretty well. It is getting pretty uncomfortable to run these days though, from my experience, but because he's had probably 2 to 3 reruns by now, you're probably closing in on his E2, which is insane value. And the reason why it's so insane is because Phainon's E2 can carry literal garbage, and that's gonna be really important for starward mode. Like, if you have an E2 Phainon, you can carry like a team with Bailu, Yukong, and Ting Yun. And that's like, even in night stages, that works somehow. Like, that's how insane it really is. So if you're looking at Phainon to make endgame content easier, that E2 is so high value. Because it's not even that it's just overkill for most content, it's so overkill that it allows you to create better team comps for your other sides. It is so strong. His signature is also really strong. I praised the DDD on this banner, and it's exactly because Phainon is a type of unit that runs many DDD type units, right? In a non-Cyrene team, he can run Sunday, Sparkle. Of course, because he's a fairly safe sustainless unit too, you can also have a second DDD holder. Ceredra can use DDD. It's just, this is like the perfect Phainon banner because it includes all of the pieces in his team that makes him work. In fact, Phainon Sig is so strong that you wouldn't really be that mad to get a copy of it, because apparently, according to the according to resident Phainon mains that I've talked to, his signature is so strong with higher refinement, or superimpositions I mean, that some people would choose it over E6 because it's a 75/25 and the increase is not that far behind. So, you know, if you're already at E2 Phainon, pulling for Phainon Sig copies might actually be the move for you because you'd be able to get DDD copies at the same time, and that's pretty funny. So this is a really high value banner for Phainon main specifically. If you've been saving for Phainon since like the last time he reran, I mean, just please get his E2. It is actually just life-changing. The difference between using an E0 Phainon and E2 Phainon is like night and day. It's so fucking good, man. At E0, he feels kinda lackluster nowadays. He definitely needs shilling to pull through in like night stages and stuff, but at MOC he's just kind of fine. But at E2 he dominates everything. Please do it. Like, if you're a Phainon main, why aren't you pulling his Eidolons anyway? And also, pulling more Sig copies is pretty cool too, because you have DDD on it. I guess that's it for the banners. Again, it's really dependent on what your account already has. This is basically just, I would only recommend pulling Phainon if you think he's like really cool and he's like your favorite character. And if you already have him, his Eidolons and signature copies are really strong, so it's like, hey, if you're a Phainon superfan, you have to get it, right? Like, I don't think I need to convince you of that. I'm just gonna tell you it's not a bad idea, you know? Cyrene is a unit whose value depends on like your whole roster. If you don't have a lot of Amphorius units, her value drops off pretty badly. But if you have a lot of Amphorius units, she's one of the most important characters for your account because she caps off the investment for a team. And if you already have a decent amount of Amphorius characters, she is very likely to be your next biggest upgrade. And since there's been a lot of reruns, it's very common. Yaoguang is a unit who is very much required for the 3 DPS's in Elation right now. Without Yaoguang, those DPS's feel significantly worse. Even Evanesia, who's like arguably the least reliant on Yaoguang, especially at like higher investment, Evanesia really relies on Yaoguang to get the most value out of her Eidolons. Even with Silverwolf 999, Yaoguang is way too important. It's just, playing her without Elation DPSs feels so much worse. And then you have Blade, who is generally a very flexible unit. There's 2 teams he really stands out in, the Ashvale team and the Acheron team. So if you have those 2 teams at any capacity, you should absolutely get him, because he is actually strong enough that he can carry an E0 Acheron pretty well. And that's pretty high value. Like, you just pulled 1 cost and all of a sudden you have an Acheron team that can actually clear. Like, that's pretty good value. But outside of that, he's kind of just he's a good pick. Like, he's not bad. It's just that I would think you would pull Blade more so because you want to have fun with all of the team comps you can use him with. Again, he's very versatile. Like, you can play him in many different ways. He can be a tank, he can be a support, he can be a DPS. sub DPS. He does basically everything, and in any team, he's at the very least a bare minimum of usable and can clear. Like, that's pretty damn good. If you just like experimenting with teams, like I do, Blade is a pretty high recommendation in my opinion.